Okay, welcome everyone. With the help of Hashem, I'm feeling better than last night. Last night was a bit of a challenge. Baruch Hashem, with the help of Hashem, and with the help of my Rebbetzin, we're back in the country. We're broadcasting again from South Fallsburg. We are holding on Mem Vava Mid Beis, and we're holding 5 lines from the bottom, dedicated by Shalom Fogel, Ili Nishmas, Yaakov Zev ben Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh, whose yahrzeit was today, Rivka Bas Reb Yaakov, Tzivya Miriam Bas Reb Gad, Rios ben Tzim ben Reb Yaakov Zev, by Baruch Ian, Ili Nishmas, Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Gittel, and Avram ben Shmuel HaKoyin, by Yaakov Yemansky, for HaKos HaTov to the Rav and the Zoom family, and Nachas from children and grandchildren, Amy Spry, for Nachas from children and grandchildren, Ed Saleh from London, and Joshua Rosenberg, a virtual Talmud. Say thank you to Hashem that I'm feeling better than I was, and Hashem should grant me a full refuah shalema. We also have in mind for our Zoom chaver, Shimon Yehuda ben Gittel, you should have a refuah shalema b'seich shechal Yisrael. We welcome in Saba, we welcome in Mo Kushner, Aaron Swade. We welcome in the Agudas Yisrael Beis Zev. I see Michal Avram Chavin, and I see Ruvain Shanit. Anybody else there? Gedalia Engel. And I see Yisrael Fisher, Irving Fishbaum, Baruch Ian, Mel Zachter, Nachman Chapler, and Yitzi Fuchs, Michal Akta, Dr. Guy, I think that's Ben Cian Cohn, Berish Gesserman, Shelley Zeitlin, Ruvain Pollack, Dr. Black, Rich Lenner, Shalom Fogel, Ilya Shutman, Abe Arbach, Daniel Rosenberg, Yitzi Muller, David Healthcott on Kolaloshin. Okay, so the Gemara tells us now, Tan Rabbanan, Orev Meyid L'Loiva. If, let's say, Yisrael took a loan from me, and Mel guaranteed the loan. Now, Mel wants to testify that a certain piece of land belongs to Yisrael. He has a kind of a vested interest, because if Yisrael is not going to have land and I can't get money from him, then I'm going to come after Mel. But he could testify on Yisrael's behalf if Yisrael has other land. So if Yisrael has other land, then it doesn't make a difference to Mel, because if the person takes away that land, I'll still have other land to retrieve. So then he doesn't have a vested interest. Similarly, Milva Meyid L'Loiva. Yisrael owes me money. I could testify that a certain piece of land belongs to Yisrael. Again, if he has other land. So if he has other land, then I don't have a vested interest, because even if they take away that piece of land, I still have land to collect from. This is an interesting case. If Yisrael owes me land, and Irving bought a piece of land from him, and then after Irving bought the land from him, then Nachman bought another piece of land from him. Now remember, when I come to collect from Yisrael, if Yisrael doesn't have money, then I go to the one that's most on the hook. So what happens is that when, remember, Irving bought from Yisrael, Nachman says, let me see, should I buy from Yisrael? You know what, I'm safe. Because if Rabbi Weiss is going to come after him, he's going to come after first Irving. Right? Because Irving, bought, 1 second, the other way around. The other way around. The way it works is that when Irving buys from Yisrael, he looks to see, does Yisrael have any property that's available? And therefore, if he has other property available, so he feels safe to buy from Yisrael, because if I come to collect my money, I'm going to come and get his available property. So Yisrael sells a piece of property to Irving, then he sells a piece of property to Nachman. So Nachman is now on the hook. If I'm going to collect from Yisrael and he doesn't have money, I'm going to go after Nachman. Because remember, Irving protected himself because there was still available property by Irving protected himself because there was still available property by Yisrael. Then he sold that other property to Nachman. Now, can Irving testify that the property belongs to Nachman? Now, it sounds like he has a vested interest, because if the property is taken away from Nachman and I go after Yisrael, then I'm going to come and take Irving's property that he bought from Yisrael. So the Gemara says that Irving can testify for Nachman if Nachman has other land that he brought from Yisrael. And that's what the Gemara says. Lekach Rishon meid lekach sheni. Irving can testify that the land is Nachman's. That Nachman has other land that he brought from Irving. So therefore, even if one is taken away, I'll still collect from the other land and leave Irving alone. Now, where it becomes a little bit more complicated is by a kablan. This is called an Orav kablan. Now, in this case, what happens over here is Yisrael, who's getting nervous with all this action over here, and he can't keep his head straight. In this case, Yisrael takes a loan from me, but I insist on an Orav kablan. I really don't, I'm really nervous about Yisrael. So I insist that Rich Leonard should be an Orav kablan. He's an accountant, so So I insist that he should be. What's an Orav kablan? An Orav kablan is that Rich takes the money from me and gives it to Yisrael. By doing that, Rich puts himself on the hook that I could collect from him first. That's called an Orav kablan. Now, Lamai says, I know that the money is for Yisrael. So if Yisrael is going to have it, I'm going to go after Yisrael. So the question is now, can Rich testify about a piece of land that it belongs to Yisrael in the event that he has another piece of land? So, Kablan, Imre Law Meyit, there are those that say that Rich could give testimony. The Imre Law, but there are those that say Eina Meyit, he can't give testimony. Imre Law Meyit, he could give testimony. Ka'arav Dami, it's like a regular guarantor. And since if Yisrael has more than one piece of land, so he doesn't have a vested interest, because if they take away that piece of land from him, I still have other land to collect from. However, the Imre Law Eino Meyit, there are those that say that I cannot testify. Why can't I testify? Not me. Rich cannot testify. Why? He wants that Yisrael should have both pieces of land. Why? Because remember, I really could come after Rich whenever I want, because Rich is an Orav kablan, so I could go to him first. So therefore, I want Yisrael to have a selection of land. The Chiyasi Bal Chayv, that when I'm saying Rich wants Yisrael to have a selection of land. the chiyasi bal chayv, so that when I come to collect, my deboy shakel, Yisrael should have a choice. And this way, it's more likely that I'll leave rich alone. Now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the next teachings are mostly very logical, common sense. Umenein loy chazaka. So that means that if Rich is a refrigerator repairman, and he has my refrigerator, he can't claim that he bought it because he has it because he's a repairman. Ben umen yesh loy chazaka. But if Rich's son has it, then he does have a chazaka. Oris, if Rich is a sharecropper in my land and used it for 3 years, ain't like chazaka, because he's a sharecropper. Ben Oris, but if Rich's son is in the land for 3 years, yesh like chazaka. Now the plot thickens. Gazlan, if Rich is a well-known thief, we will see later that he's from the Castellano family, right? So look at Mark smiling. Gazlan, the reason why I'm picking on Rich is because he didn't come down to shul, so he's cooked. Now, Gazlan, if Rich is a Gazlan, or Ben Gazlan, or even Rich's son, if they're in the field for 3 years, ein lehem chazaka. But Ben Benai shel Gazlan, but Rich's grandson, he would already have a chazaka. Yesh le chazaka. So now the Gemara tries to piece out what's the difference over here. Hey Chidami, what's the case? If Rich was a refrigerator repairman and his son said, I bought it for my father, or if Rich was an Oris and the son said, I bought it from my father, the Oris, then afilu hanach namiloi. It shouldn't be good even by the sharecropper or by the refrigerator repairman. Because Rich, you look very handsome. You look more like Marshall every minute. Now, okay.
He caught something from you. Look what happened to him.
You could hide behind all the disguises you want. Now, anyway, so before I was rudely interrupted by a dog, so again, if we said if he was a refrigerator repairman and his son was holding it, or if he was an Oris and his son was holding it, he would have a chazak. But why? If his claim is that he bought it from his father, then since his father's claim is not a good claim because the father was a refrigerator repairman or an Oris, then that's a chazak she'eni moitana. Now afilu hanach namiloi. Now either lo yasa b'tanasa davuan, but if they're not coming connected to their father, but Rich is the refrigerator repairman's son said, I bought it directly from Rabbi Weiss, or the Oris's son said, I bought it directly from Rabbi Weiss, or the Gazlan's son said, I bought it from Rabbi Weiss, and I have it 3 years, then afilu ben Gazlan nami. Then even a ben Gazlan should have a chazaka. Just because his father is a Gazlan, why should it affect him? Says the Gemara, Leitzricha de ka'amrei edim b'faneinu haidalai. Witnesses say, here's the situation. Not only does the son of the Oris or the son of the Gazlan have a chazaka, but they also say that in our presence, the father said that he sold it to the son. Admitted. No, not the father. In our presence, the Morikama, that's me, Rabbi Weiss admitted that I sold it to him. I sold it to the father. So, Hanach, in the case of the son of the Oris, or the son of the refrigerator repairman, that it's the truth. And the fact that there's Chazaka bears that out. But in the case of the son of the Gazlan, Afal Gab the Oide, even though I admit in front of Adam that I sold it to the Gazlan, I sold it to Rich from the Castellano family, still Nami Loy Mehem. It's still not believable. Why? Eyewitnesses say that. I said I sold it to him. So I'll say, yeah, I said that because otherwise he would have delivered me over to the government. Kid Rav Kahana, Dom Rav Kahana, Ilav the Oidele, if I wouldn't have admitted to that, he would have got me and my donkey L'Shachvar. He would have handed me over to the government, which in those days is not a very good thing. Even today, it's not a very good thing. Now, so then why Ben Benoy Shel Gazlan is good? Ben Benoy Shel Gazlan is talking about where what happened is Chatzkel's son had it for 3 years. And then Chatzkel's son died, was inherited by a grandson. Oh, inherited by a grandson. Now we're talking about the claim of a Yosem. Now a Yosem doesn't know how his father got it. In this case, we say Bezdin makes a claim. Psach picha le'ilam. We make a claim, we open up our mouths for a mute. We're taninon li'yasaymin. We make a taina for an orphan. And therefore we say, well, maybe Chatzkel's son bought it directly from Rabbi Weiss. And he had it for 3 years. So therefore we award it to the grandson. However, that's only if we don't know. But if the grandson comes into court and I got it from my grandfather, then he ruins his claim, because his grandfather was a Gazlan. And saying I got it from the Gazlan is meaningless. I'm a Rava.
Yeah, do you have the key?
I'm a Rava. Sometimes even the grandson of the Gazlan also doesn't have a chazaka. This is an example. If you talk too much, you get into trouble. When he says he got it through his grandfather. Oh, his grandfather. His grandfather is nothing because his grandfather was a Gazlan. Now, when we say Rich was a Gazlan, what do we mean that Rich was a Gazlan? That we caught him stealing out of the shul's pushka? What do we mean? Heichi Domi Gazlan. He had to be already found to doing shenanigans with this field. Rav Chisda says that's not enough. Where do we say that even if there's testimony that I admitted that I sold it to him, it's still my testimony, my admission is nothing? Going to base Pliny, like the house of Castellano, Shahargan Nefashas Aliske Mammon, that they kill people for monetary gain. So if Rich is, like I said, from the Castellano family, then even if there is witnesses that say that in their presence I admitted that I sold it to Rich, it's meaningless. Because if I didn't say that, you know what's next? The concrete shoes, and all that stuff. Look in the back over there if you see in Rich's house. See any concrete shoes there? He keeps it hidden. Now.
They're on the shelf over his right shoulder.
Now. Tana Rabbana. I think the Olam could detect that my voice is a little stronger than last night. Last night wasn't so easy. What did I have before I made a shackle already? Was I eating? Was an eights I made? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. Tana Rabbanan. Oh, we're just joined by somebody else. Look at this. Marshall already 33 Zoomers here. We haven't blinked an eye over here. Look at this. Welcome in with Avram Zepkowitz. So anyway, Tana Rabbanan. Umanein loy chazak. As we said, if Mark is a refrigerator repairman, even though he has my refrigerator, he can't claim he bought it. He doesn't have a chazaka. Yared miyam nasai. But if he retired, then yesh le chazaka. Or is saying like chazaka. If he's a sharecropper, he doesn't have a chazaka. Yarad me'erususai. But if he retired, then yesh le chazaka. Ben shechalak, a son that is not living with his father anymore. He has his own house, and he occupies his father's property for 3 years, or be'isha shenizgasha, a woman that gets divorced, lo aleinu, and is now in her ex's land for 3 years, harihen kashar kol adam, and they get a chazaka. So the Gemara says, well, the first part of here, the first teaching is a novelty. Bishleim a ben shechalak, a son that's not living at home, itzrach. We still need to teach that if he's in his father's property for 3 years, he has a chazaka, because I would think that the father looks away if his son is on his property, even if he's not living at home. The father won't look away for 3 straight years. A woman that gets divorced, if she's in her ex's property for 3 years, pshita, that's obvious. He wouldn't let her stay there. Says the Gemara, like tzricha, as we turn to Men Zayin and Beis, like tzricha b'megureshes ve'ena megureshes. It's talking about where she's in limbo. What happened was, is he threw a get to her, and it's Suffolk Karav Lo, Suffolk Karav Lo. We're not sure whether it was closer to him and she's not divorced, or closer to her and she is divorced. So she's in limbo. She can't live with him, but he still has to support her until he gives her a good get. And she's in his land for 3 years. Wherever the Chachamim say that it's a suffix, husband has to support her. So I might think if she's in the land 3 years, she doesn't have a chazaka because that was her support. Kamash Malan, as the Rashbam says very colorfully, the husband, since he divorced her and he's letting her hang in limbo, it means he hates her. And if he hates her, he's not going to give her easy mezainis. He's going to give it only under duress, and only if the court squeezes it out of him. He's not going to give her a piece of land for 3 years to enjoy. And therefore it must be that she bought it from him. Now, Amar Rav Nachman, and for those of you that are just joining us, we are on Daf Mem Zayin Amud Beis, 5 lines from the top. Now, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Li Huna, Rav Nachman said that Huna told me. I don't think many people called Rav Huna Huna. Right? I remember one time I was standing with the Rosh Hashiva. Somebody didn't see, it was from a corner of the bend, and somebody didn't see who I was with. And he called, Moshe! He was calling me. And I remember the Rosh Hashiva's head turned. He's I wonder when the last time anybody called the Rosh Hashiva Moshe. The Rebbetzin used to call, it's very interesting, the Alter Rebbetzin used to call the Rosh Hashiva the Rav. Because before he was Rosh Hashiva, and he came to America in 1937, but before that he was Rav in Luban. So I guess she got used to calling him the Rav. That's how she used to refer to him. So, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar li Huna. It was told to me by Rav Huna, Kulan sheviu raya, if they bring a proof, that means the Rich the refrigerator man, or Rich the Oris, if he brings a proof, the Rashbam says, either he brings a deed of sale, or he brings witnesses that witnessed that I sold it to him, Rayos and Raya, it's a good proof, Umamidan Sada Biyana, and we give, I'm saying shir, I'll call you after shir.
Okay, Rabbi Son.
Umamidan Sada Biyana, and we award the field to Rich. Gazlan Shehevi Raya, but Rich the Gazlan, not Rich the Gazlan. Rich the Gazlan, look at Marshall smiling. Gazlan Shehevi Raya. Rich the Gazlan, even, this is amazing. He comes into court with a shtar that I sold it to him. Or he has witnesses that I sold it to him. Ein Rayos and Raya. It's not a good proof. The Ein Mamidin Sada Biyadin. And we don't award him the field. So why? Because we say that even though I signed the shtar, or I admitted it, I'm thinking about the concrete boots. And I don't want to trip to the bottom of the sea. I don't want it. So the Gemara says, well, this is like fascinating. This is like fascinating because this next piece of Gemara is in the Kamsa, right before the Kamsa Sugya that everybody learns on Tisha B'Av. It's so interesting. The Gemara says, by Kamash Malan, that I'm going to be scared to not sign it in front of Rich. We learned that already. Where do we learn it? In Masechtas Gittin, Tanina, Lokach Misikrikan. Now in this case, the Gemara talks about Sikrikan, idolatrous plunderers. So if an idolatrous plunderer, we'll call him Ivan. Ivan plunders the land for me. And then what happens is that the infamous Eddie Chazan, he's always looking for deals. So the Ivan offers to sell my land to Eddie Chazan. Now Eddie Chazan doesn't want to have problems for me. So he goes ahead and he says, look, Rabbi Weiss, I want to make a little settlement with you. I don't want you to have any claims afterwards. So Lokach Misikrikin, if Eddie buys it from Ivan, the Chazav Lokach Balabayis, and then he buys, he gives me a pittance, right? Mikhay bottle. It's discounted. Because the reason why I agree with Eddie is because I'm afraid that Ivan will come after me. So what's the chiddush? We already learned this, that if you're afraid of an infamous Goslin like Rich, then of course it's not a good Eidei Mechira. It's of course not a good shtar. No, the chiddush the Gemara says is that Rav says that the only time we discount my doing it with Eddie is only if I tell him you could buy it. But if I write a shtar, that's more than I had to do, then Eddie gets to keep it. Says where I said to Eddie, go take hold of it and acquire it. But if I write him a deed of sale, then kana. Kamash Malon, that's the chiddush of Rav Huna over here. Kiddushmul, the Amar Ap B'shtar Nami like kana. Even if I write a shtar, it's only because I'm afraid of Ivan. And in this case, I'm afraid of Rich. As we welcome in Richard Rosenzweig, until I go so far as to say, and Eddie, if somebody takes the land away from you, I'll give you security. Now that far I didn't have to go. And the same thing with Rich. If I say, I sell it to Rich, and Rich, if somebody takes it away from you, I'll give you achrayis. The fact of the concrete boots would not make me promise him achrayis. If I go that far, that's an indication that it's a real sale. Rabbevoy Misayim ba Mishmei de Rav Nachman, Karka Einloi. If I admit to selling it to Rich, he doesn't get the karka. However, Aval Mois Yeshloi, but money Rich gets. In other words, if there's witnesses that say that they saw Rich count out money to me for the land, still Rich has to give me back the land. Why? Because we say I was afraid of him and it's extortion. But I have to give him back the money. If they saw him handing me money, he's entitled to get back his money. Even if he's Al Capone, he's entitled to get back his... If he paid me the money, I don't know what possessed him to do that, but if he paid me the money, then he can't claim that he wants the land, because we still say I sold it to him under duress. But I have to give him the money. But where do I have to give him the money? When witnesses say that in our presence, Rich counted out the money. If he counted out the money, I got to give him back the money. But if they just say that in his presence, I admitted that I sold him the land, that's meaningless. Kid Rav Kahana, like we said, the Amar, Ilav the Oidale, if not that I admitted it, have a mamtelele didei lechamre, he would have taken me and my donkey l'shachvar and handed me over to the government. And in those days, being handed over to the government was really bad news. Okay, we're going to stop over here now. Rabbi say I have to tell you that we do not have a normal schedule. So Shelley, you'll take note of it. Irving, you'll take note of it. Tomorrow we're going to have a daf. It's, I think, the first time that I'm doing this in 40 years, but I am doing it. I think it's going to be easier for the Olam. We're going to rely on the halacha that we could learn on Erev Tisha B'Av, things that are normal Seder, and we will have a daf tomorrow at 5 o'clock. It'll be a shortened daf, so everybody will be able to get to their minchas. But we'll have a daf on tomorrow, 5 p.m. Rear afternoon daf, 5 p.m. tomorrow. And then there'll be a daf on Tuesday on Motzi Tisha B'Av at 9:45. So we'll only have to learn one blot instead of two blot, which will be a lot easier. So again, schedule, which will work right. I actually put that already on the fairways schedule, on our Agudas Yisrael Beis Zev schedule. The daf tomorrow, which will be set up by Michal Avram, that's at 5. And then on Tuesday night, after the Tanis, at 9:45, now we're going to do the Mishnah Yomis.